Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Global Fusion Music and Arts evening of poetry, music and spoken word. We're live here in the GFMA studios. We have some wonderful performers as usual this evening, and our guest is author, poet and artist Geraldine Anford. New to GFMA, but not new as a performer locally in the area and throughout Kent. So we're going to look forward to listening to some of her work, and I'm looking forward to actually speaking with her and finding out a little bit more. So can I remind everyone before we start to stay muted unless you're performing, and if you can find your chat function, I will try and pick up things that people say, because it's a great way of being able to all be involved. It's lovely when you're at home, and it's a way we can contact you through the chat, and I can pass some of that chat on, the things that you want to say. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to sing you a song. So the song is called "The Grey of Morning Light," and it's about those times when you can go somewhere really in sort of in your sleep, those moments between waking and sleeping, when we can, I don't know what you do, but I kind of talk to people or meet people. I don't know who I'm going to meet. So the grey of morning light. Shadows fall, owls and nightingales call, the fragments of the day slip from our sights. I will find you in the velvet of the night, in the silence of the night, where the resting dreams take flight. You can find me in the grey of morning light. Walk through forests of pine, where towering branches entwine, or gaze upon a never-ending shore, finding places we have never seen. Silence of the night, where the resting dreams take flight, you can find me in the grey of morning light, sharing words too quiet to hear, sensing morning is near, and knowing that we will always understand. While time moves through the glass like grains of sand, in the silence of the night, where the resting dreams take flight, you can find me in the grey of morning light. Come and find me in the grey of morning. Thank you very much. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Constanza Maria, who we have had before, is a member of the writers group, and has read before for us, and we're welcoming you back with poetry that I think sort of captures things that we've all seen. It's sort of what I would call observational poetry. Very beautiful.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here today. I have two short pieces today. The first piece is called Pass, and that was indeed a prompt at one of the writing groups. I pass the window, I pass the door. What is lying on the floor? It's banana peel. I pass it by. with a tired little sigh. Should I go back? Move it aside? Somebody might slip and slide. I don't return, adjust my glasses. Soon the guilty sort just passes. I'm almost home. I pass my neighbour. His wife is in established labour. Does she need help? No, no, they say. The ambulance is on the way. I pass my cat. She's on the fence, feigning total ignorance. I open the door. She rushes past. I knew her disinterest wouldn't last. I pass the mat on the hallway floor, and with relief, I shut the door. My second piece is called Destined. Who was this man that seemed to speak right into her mind without moving those lips? She felt naked under his gaze, even across the hall, like her soul had been exposed, without her permission, without her even noticing it was happening. He was gorgeous, of course, and surely he wasn't actually interested in her. Age gap aside, she was not exactly in a position to show herself in a great light, and he was in no position to express any genuine interest in her, both bound by their current commitments. What had brought them together also fiercely separated them, at least for the time being. Alice tried to switch off all the deep attraction she felt for him, refocus on the task at hand, and keep her public face intact, yet he seemed to penetrate far below her well-practiced defences with apparent ease, like he'd been waiting for her his whole life and was going to make full use of this opportunity to connect in person. She needed to get out, to leave before he spotted her in the crowd, trying to leave without actually speaking to him. She hoped he was busy talking to somebody else so she could slip away unnoticed. She thought she had a good chance, but he popped up in her planned escape path so suddenly she almost fell into him. And in that moment she was totally disarmed by his presence, and it felt weirdly okay. She felt safe and at home. His eyes looked earnest when he asked how things are going, and his voice sounded genuine. Alice wanted to hug him there and then, which surprised her, considering she had been attempting a clean getaway only moments before. Her reply was honest, as surely the way he was looking right into her, he would have known otherwise. The conversation was brief, as circumstances dictated, and both were still constrained by their assigned roles in this strange encounter. Yet, when she finally did leave, all she could think about was when she might see him again, and she had an overwhelming sense that he felt the same.
Lovely, thank you so much. The first one, so much humour and not humour. That guilt, that stuff we've all felt, it's just sort of on the edge. It was fabulous, and the descriptions that you use in your written piece, the second piece, brought it alive like we were there. I think it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you with us, and lovely that you come down to be live.
Yes, that's lucky and very local.
It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And next, we're going to Scotland now, in fact to the Isle of Arran, where Sheila McCallum is waiting. Sheila has been several times with us on here and has actually been the guest writer. It's wonderful to have Sheila. Now, I wish you were here. We're always so far, and yet through Zoom we can make good contact, I think. So Sheila's a writer and artist. You've also got most beautifully descriptive work, painting vivid writer to the reader, and it's always a pleasure to have you on these sessions.
Thank you. This is a short story Some of it you might recognise. It's a response to the war-torn world we're in at the moment. The judge said, "You have brought this man to me as one who perverts the people, and having examined him before you, I have found no fault in this man relating to the things of which you accused him. He will therefore be chastised and set free." The crowd rose in fury, demanding that the young man be executed. As the guards approached to lead him away from their hostile mob, the young revolutionary turned his face to the crowd. His riveting gaze seemed focused directly upon each man and woman, which prompted the general mood to change to one of curiously respectful awe. Even the guards, by then were clutching their charges' arms, momentarily released their grasps. No longer viewed as the scorned troublemaker, Jay stood on the platform confronting the subdued crowd as an electrifying presence, yet his eyes blazing and his long dark hair wind-strewn and entangled with leaves, encircling his head like a crown. His appearance was more like that of a bacchanalian reveller than a zealous political agitator. But the spectators were captivated, for despite this puzzling image of ostentatious theatricality, the young, reprieved prisoner had about him an aura of mystery and holiness. The eerie quiet that had descended upon the scene was suddenly broken by these prophetic words, uttered in a deep, sonorous tone, which seemed to resonate like thunder. "Love your neighbor as yourself. Heed not these words at your peril." The guards at this point, fearing a further outburst of undisciplined reaction against the unexpected and slightly menacing command, swiftly dragged their captive away for his and their own protection, for he was their captive still, until they found out what the judge's definition of chastisement would consist, and when exactly he was to be freed. The mystified crowd gradually drifted away, wondering whether they had witnessed the ravings of a madman or the warning of a prophet. The naive innocence and stirred up passions that fed the hunting instinct to bay for blood, which they had felt earlier, had filtered into confused indifference as they wearily plodded homeward. However, Jay's words would long echo in their minds and oddly affect their behaviour for the better. The chastisement inflicted upon Jay was exile from the city to begin on the morrow. That evening, his father Joseph was allowed a brief visit. "Well, son, you got away with your life, and for that your mother and I are grateful. My advice to you is lead a quiet life somewhere and forget this nonsense about changing the world. You're ahead of the times in your thinking, lad. Imagine if you'd been executed today. You would have been mythologized, seen as a martyr, a savior of souls even. Oppressed people hanker for a savior, but the masses are fickle and easily swayed. You saw that today. Those in power would only have used your martyrdom to gain more power, and that would have led to more trouble, wars even, people fighting one another in your name. Your good works transformed into miracles, you deified even, but at the expense of all that you so ardently aspired to achieve." Jay looked at his father in amazement. Joseph, the humble carpenter, had assumed the appearance of a godlike figure, large in omnipotence, yet he spoke in a tone of gentle humility. As Jay opened his mouth to answer, Joseph bade him wait. "Let me finish, then I shall leave you to ponder my words. Marry the lass Maria. Cultivate your garden and seek happiness, for all life on this earth is God's gift to us, to be valued and better understood. You are both intelligent literary folk, you and Maria, and scholarly beyond the norm. You could therefore write down your own thoughts and love your neighbour theories. Let others do it, and they'll distort everything. Live the principles you believe in, don't die for them. You are an unusually sensitive, talented pair. You have a lot more to offer the world. Your appreciation of the sacred in every living thing, your scorn of the moneymakers and power seekers, your criticisms of current attitudes, even in religious life, are valuable and need truly recording. He hesitated momentarily, looking rather confused, but continued, "Perhaps Maria is already carrying your child. You must honor your commitment to family life and marry her. I married your mother when she was with child. You are not my birth child, but none of that matters. We are all children of God." At this point, Joseph bent to kiss Jay, saying, "Do not worry about your mother and me. We are relieved that you are alive and believe in your good faith, my boy, and God bless you." With that, he left. That night, sleeping on sackcloth on the hard floor of his cell, Jay had a terrifying nightmare. There were battlefields strewn with bodies of soldiers, some wearing images of Jay himself hanging on a cross. Then he saw women being burnt to death on bonfires and being drowned in lakes. Again, onlookers were wearing images of Jay on crosses around their necks. Finally, Jay saw mushroom clouds rising into a darkened sky, leaving a devastated land devoid of any life. He woke trembling with fear and drenched with sweat, but determined to follow Joseph's advice. Jay did marry Maria, and to them several children were born. Together they worked the land adjoining their simple house. Their growing understanding and respect for the rhythms of the seasons taught them how not only to provide enough food for themselves and others, but to appreciate the interconnection of all living organisms. They found time to write and to study, and Jay still attracted crowds when he spoke publicly until he was well into old age. Their contribution to the canon of philosophical and scientific works is still valued and studied in most universities to this day. So history was changed.
Thank you so much, Sheila. That was just so profound. So many messages in there. So beautifully described. Leaving us with questions. And I want to read more. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. I think I love it when you come on and read, because I always take away something to really think about. Actually, that was beautiful. Thank you. It's me again. So this is a song that I've never actually performed. So it's a new one. So I think it's about time I do perform it. It's about I wrote it in about 2020. So it's when I didn't really write many songs. I tend to have really only started writing probably just before lockdown, maybe a couple of years before. But there are these odd songs that I never did, and this is one of them. So I wrote this. For me, really, trying to come to some thoughts about my mum was dying, over about 6 years, and this was very close to when she died. And it was all things I really wanted to say, and I managed to sing it to her. I don't know how, but and I might not do it now, but I really would like to sing it, I think. It's called All I Am. Will you wait here for a while? say goodbye, and I'm not certain, but I will give it a try. For all I am and all I'll ever be is all you have given me. Woo. Thank you so much. It's quite nice it's had an airing. First one ever. I knew I was among friends though, so that's why I can bring it tonight. So the next person we're going to hear for was hoping to be here, I think, live in the studios, but not able. But still lovely to have you. Andrew L. Boyd is a local poet, and you've performed several times for us, and you've actually been our guest, and that was a very memorable evening, actually. We just have had some wonderful guests on this programme who have just shared who they are as people and as writers, and that's what's really special, I think, about this lovely poetry evening and spoken word. So Andrew, I'm going to hand over to you, and you're trying out a new system with the sound, and it sounded great earlier, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you guys for having me, and good evening. I'm going to read 3 poems tonight. I don't think I've read them here before. And the first one is titled Autumn. I don't know about you, but I like autumn. I like the orange yellows, the browns, the red. And this poem is a reflection on the beauty of letting go. Just what happens to trees in autumn, especially oaks. They do it beautifully. Autumn. See, even the oaks are showing us just how beautiful it can be to let go. So that was autumn. Sometimes we think letting go is a difficult thing, but it can be a beautiful thing too, a graceful thing. And the oaks are showing us that in this poem. The second poem is titled rather oddly. It says, title is, Venus is currently beyond the reach of rovers. So Venus is currently beyond the reach of rovers. Man's trying to go to Mars, but they're not trying to go to Venus yet. It's a poem about escapism. And since Venus is so far away, maybe that's where we should be heading. And this was addressed to someone really special. Okay, so Venus is currently beyond the reach of rovers. Fly away with me, love. Fly far away with me. Let us gather our hearts, our smiles, and leave this wretched world behind. Do you not see how it spoils beautiful things? So that was Venus is And finally, this is a deeply personal reflection. This poem, it talks about home. It has memories of home. There's loss in it. There's some good memories in it. And it's titled, Why I Will Never Go Back to That Place. And this was a particular place where I grew up. And you will see from the poem why, though it has something that was worth remembering, it also has things about it that makes it worth letting go of. Okay, so it's a kind of an irony there, but you'll hear it. Bob, the breadfruit tree out back hung its leaf at half-mast. Remember when we were told dogs howling at night meant someone was about to die? That place has never stopped dying. Or Vaughan was snatched a few years after you. A year later, Wayne was gone. Both took bullet trains to the place you rode the blade wielded by your cousin. Now it seems the heir is always in his funeral clothes, and many of the boys we grew up with have left their bodies behind. Their sisters now speak in hushed voices, their mothers fluent in the languages of memory. I never imagined we would stop, run a boat, stop, play football, stop, go a pump for a swim. And I only realize now that those were the things that made our childhood home. There were a few colloquial terms in there towards the end, but yeah, thank you for allowing me to share those 3 moments with you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. They were absolutely beautiful, and the sound was great, and we could hear it so well.
Yeah.
Again, sort of stuff to make us think about things. I mean, they were inspirational. Some of those words are absolutely beautiful. Letting go was, I thought, particularly moving, actually. Very, very beautiful. It's a great pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.
And next, we are travelling again, and we're going to California, where Suzanne West is waiting to read her very beautiful, inspirational poetry. Welcome back to you, Suzanne. It's a great pleasure to have you with us, and have been our guest before, and actually have come on and read before, and have run the most beautiful, inspirational writing workshops for us. And I think you're going to do another one, which we all look forward to. We all think, I think, that the people in the writers group, the GFMA writers group, that you're very in tune with us. There's some sort of connection, really, across the miles.
Thank you, Roz. And it is lovely to be here. Lovely, lovely. So I have 3 poems. This first one is called, What Are Your Words? What words seep deep into your skull? Calm the thought storms, show the boulders the way out, and sky the way in. What are your words that cast spells, summon the song of the stone who wants to love you? What words can unearth your buried pain to speak it all? What words are dense, tense, untouchable, scare others away, even the bats and scorpions? What words are not yours, are the inheritance from your wounded lineage? What words are locked in a bleak, grimy dungeon, deeply sobbing their helplessness, dying to be heard? What words thrill your wild, won't let you rest until you howl, until you claim your fur and tail? What words paint the true shape of you when you are broken And what are your words when you are at one with all that is? What words spoken? Bless others' pain, soft stitch the gashes, kiss awake the dormant shine, offer a portal. And thank you. This is called Poems, Paintings, Songs. They wait in the bedroom while I sleep, ready when I'm thrust awake by the cries of my sisters, brothers, the children. I'm derailed by seeing with raw eyes how we have abused and destroyed the creatures, oceans, mountains, forests, each other, stunned by the madness of these times. Words, colors, shapes, sounds, loyal friends that reached into me, move fearlessly towards the caged pain, thaw the numbness, teach me the ways of the dark, the books on the table, beauty on the walls, music in the air, breathe sanity into the spinning flames, announce the presence of the sacred when the luminous threads point me to the fields of wisdom and love. I ask for guidance to help me find my way in this broken world and show me how I can give back. And this last one is called Please Teach Me. Dear Silence, please show me your ways again. I'm beginning again. Please take my knowing. Teach me to cherish not knowing, to see, feel, hear, taste, touch your gifts. Please teach me to see through the small self's performances and fears. Teach me to hear you inside this noisy, agitated world. Please teach me to listen as I speak, as I write, as I enter the caves of the sacred dark, haunts of the wild, as I open to the fields of imagination and boundless wisdom. Let me see and feel you everywhere because you are. Please help me remember that silence includes everything and widens everything, rounds the edges of everything. Please give me words that won't create ache, that will be helpful when help is needed, that will speak love to the world wounds. Please teach me to speak like the mountain, the lizard, the lion, the dying forests, deep down. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful poetry. Captures the very essence of experience, I think, and existence. Lines like open to the fields of imagination. It, that was just it for me. I have to say that line. It was absolutely beautiful. Always a pleasure. When is your workshop? Have we got a date for that? 9th of December. We'll obviously put it on the GFMA site, but it's 9th of December and we're all looking forward to it. Your words of wisdom, your guidance, your direction, some of that beautiful stuff that you can deliver.
Thank you.
big thank you so far to everybody who's joined us. I'll thank you all again at the end, but thank you at this point. It's a very wonderful lead-in to our guest. So our guest this evening is Geraldine Anford. She's a published author, poet, writer, performer live and on the radio, local, and also I think you did quite a bit in Kent and all over. So you're going to read us some of your stuff this evening, and we're just going to sort of play it by ear, Geraldine, I think.
Yes,
and we're just
that's
going to
what I
talk.
usually do.
Yes, I heard Geraldine read at a sort of local event, wasn't it? It was
Open mic sort of session.
yes, a
Yeah.
sort of open mic, and the lovely Ellen Blaney sessions in Mycenae House, and they're really lovely on the first Friday of the month, I think, and they're really worth going to. And at that moment, I thought, oh, this is who we should have coming and talking. Hello.
Well, I took to you straight away when we met. Sometimes you just gel with people, don't you?
Yes, you do. That's
You've
very
got
true.
such a, I don't know, gentle voice,
Oh,
but with lots of meaning.
thank you. So, I wonder first of all if you could tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear this evening. What sort of things have you selected for us?
Well, my first book that I wrote, I had lots of, not lots, but bad marriage, bad relationships, and my children, they were in their 20s, so I decided to take myself off to an island. La Gomera, not many people had heard of it. It was a very small Canary island, not a big touristy island, because I don't like living in big touristy places. And I couldn't speak a word of Spanish, all I could say was hola. And there was hardly any English-speaking people. I just went off with 2 huge suitcases.
How brave.
Well,
Actually, I'm thinking, how brave.
people that didn't really know me thought I was slightly deranged.
Yeah, no, I imagine, yeah.
Some people thought I was brave, and people that knew me, they just said, oh, that's Geraldine, good luck, have a great time, you know. And so the first thing I wanted to do is write my first book.
Yes.
But I didn't write the book on the island, I just took copious notes. It's the most beautiful island because it's volcanic, but it's got a rainforest at the top of the mountains, the Atlantic Ocean, and it's not a very big island, but it's like turning a picture book. Every part of the island was completely different. It was fascinating. So I was just lucky that, well, not lucky, I don't believe in luck. I love metaphysics, and I always think you attract things to you, and when time's right, I left a lot of my spiritual students behind. I used to teach meditation and relaxation and metaphysics, all sorts of things.
Yes.
And I just wanted a spiritual experience myself.
Yes.
But it was an island full of hippies as well, so it suited me.
Sounds great.
It's been a transient population in La Gomera since the 60s,
Right.
and the locals kind of accepted it. Most of them were German, lots of German people there. Yeah, so I don't want to tell you too much in case you want to buy the book, but it's When the Spirit Moves You, and it's on Amazon. And do you want me to read just an excerpt?
Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to. Man. That's intriguing, man.
Well, we're getting near Christmas, so this was actually my first Christmas on the island, and this was Boxing Day. On Christmas Day itself, there was about 4 of us had dinner in my apartment, halfway up the valley. Beautiful, not hugely populated, but banana plantations and papaya trees, citrus trees. It's absolutely wonderful. We didn't have a traditional Christmas dinner because they don't have turkeys on the island. My family forgot to send the stuffing and the Christmas pudding, so anyway, I decided on Boxing Day I wanted some fresh air. Today is Boxing Day. Well, in England it is, And although it's dull, it doesn't look as though it's going to rain. So we needed some fresh air. I decided to go and find the hippie beach. After walking for an hour, I come across the wreck of a catamaran just past the harbour on Playa de Alarga, and two men are picking their way through their belongings. Apparently they've lived happily together on this boat for the last 5 years, and although it was old and rusty, it was their home. Now it's smashed against the rocks like a toy and will be destroyed a bit more each day by the treacherous waves. The two friends are trying to salvage their home, while their dog, wearing a life jacket, is sitting on the beach, patiently watching. It is sad to see someone's home scattered across the rocks, pieces of wood from cupboards, furniture lying 50 yards along the bay, a colander, battered saucepan, soggy mattress, a sink unit, orange plastic seats, a microwave oven door, and a rowboat with the front missing, all amongst the wreckage. Looking down from the cliff, it's a sorry sight. I can just make out what was the cabin on top of twisted metal. Sitting on a boulder halfway up the cliff enables me to look and listen to the waves below. There is something about the continuous sound of the sea crashing against the rocks that sends me into a stupor. Thinking of the two men who have just lost their home, I contemplate on the fragility of life as I sit statue still for a long time, watching the waves foaming around the rocks. Looking up, I see a headland jutting out in the distance, a single bird flying past, and apart from the sound of the ocean, there is silence. It's a wonderful experience when time stands still. Stirring myself, I realised nearly an hour had passed, but it seems like only a few minutes. Walking on to Playa de Serenas, where some of the hippies live, is not as easy as it looks. There is a dirt track, but with lots of clambering over large, jagged rocks, and the trail seems to come to a sudden end. Maybe they don't want too many visitors. There has been a transient community on La Gomera for about 30 years, and most of the locals accept it. I've seen a few hippies with glazed expressions on their faces, living in a semi-permanent catatonic state, but the majority of them are lively, friendly and peaceful. Arriving at the beach, I'm thankful the tide is out, because when it's in, one has to swing on a thick rope to reach dry land, and I was hopeless at rope work when I was at school. There are a few footholds in the rocks, leading me down to the sand, and I almost collide with a man brushing his teeth. He is wearing a short t-shirt, and his bottom half is completely open to the wind. Well, it's nothing I haven't seen before, so I say good morning and walk on. Soon I bump into another man wearing only a short t-shirt and think, perhaps it's a uniform. I refrain from having a peep, even though it's quite hard to avert one's eyes, and I have to suppress a smile while walking past this half-naked man. Recognising a young couple who are fully clothed, I ask them if I can take a look inside the bamboo huts and caves. Some of the larger caves look surprisingly comfortable, with pretty coloured sarongs and brightly coloured pieces of material hanging in various places. There are candles burning and a few home comforts in one large cave. They have even managed to put up shelves for their CDs and books. Coming out into the sunshine, I walk into another naked man. Well, he does have a small towel around his shoulders. He has a beard and looks remarkably like Jesus, so much so I have to stop myself from staring. Maybe it's the second coming. It is Christmas after all. Lara told me they have plenty of food to eat on the hippie beach, and everyone takes it in turns to shop and cook. The crew at La Finca often send their leftover food along, and the hippies have quite a feast, which is great because the food would otherwise be thrown away. Saying goodbye to the young couple, I start my long walk back, as I do not want to outstay my welcome, and I'm beginning to feel somewhat overdressed. Sorry, my mouth is so dry tonight. it's an autobiographical travel book with lots of humour in.
Yes.
I can't write much without humour. But a lot of the poems are not humorous, they're serious as well. I've got a poem at the beginning of each chapter, but this poem is at the end of the book. And it's called The King of Birds. Now, some of you might... Where's the camera? There.
Just ahead.
Some of you might have seen the hoopoe. Hoopoe.
Yes.
But this one's indigenous to the Maltese Islands, and it's absolutely beautiful. And the crown, the feathers, the crown, is just stunning. But there's different species around the world and different colours, but this is the one on the Maltese Islands. And my first apartment was halfway up the valley, as I say, surrounded by just nature and papaya trees and citrus trees and banana plantations. And I had a huge palm tree next to my apartment. And this hoopoe appeared every morning, and they dipped their head, and it's like he was saying hello to me. That's what I like to think anyway. So I wrote this when I was leaving the island, because it seemed right to say goodbye to this bird. On this stunning island where settlements and farms occasionally fused into hamlets, the king of birds, the hoopoe, with crested head, rests in trees on the rustling palm fronds. Subtle wind music murmurs in your head as the breeze runs its fingers through the lush valleys. The hoopoe sings, the hoopoe sings. He dips his head and flaps his wings. The hoopoe nods, the hoopoe nods, makes his nest among banana pods. Island of cliffs, whipped by winds, weather-beaten in sun and rain, luminescent colours run through layers of prehistoric rock, yielding ancient vertebrae. Valleys where the night sky is so clear the sliver of new moon dazzles. An aged star, like a bejewelled earring, hangs on its cusp. The hoopoe sings, the hoopoe sings. He nods his head and flaps its wings. The hoopoe nods, the hoopoe nods, makes its nest among banana pods. An unspoilt island, La Gomera, where the moon waxes and wanes with delirious abandonment, and the poet is free to drift without a compass, far away from life in the city, where her soul would weep tears. When the island recedes, the king of birds still nests in palm trees.
Can I just ask you about that with the book? You said that you didn't write it there, but you took the notes and then you came back and you did it. Is
Well,
that
I did
your sort of
have a
process?
computer. I got one off
Yes.
the local Spanish guy. So, because I these days, I've always written straight onto the computer.
Right.
It's a long, long time since I've handwritten things.
Yes.
So I did have a computer out there, but no, it was just such a stunning island. There was so much to see. So I used to take myself up into the mountains, and the rainforest, and the beautiful valleys. Just stunning. I'm doing a talk soon, an illustrated talk with some of the photographs from the island. That will be in Orpington. I think the links on. You'll be able to see the link.
Yes. Put a link.
What was the question? Sorry.
Is that a sort of general process for you, that you will take notes of something, take it all in, and then write it later, or do you normally write as you go?
That was used. Well, that's the process for a book,
Right.
but that sort of book, because I've written 3 non-fiction books.
Yes.
I've also written a novel, so that's completely different.
Yes.
The novel's written indoors in my study.
Yes.
But when I'm writing non-fiction, then yes, you need lots and lots of notes, research. I've got a book on the Dickens Trail, a book on the Writer's Trail,
Yes.
and I'm very hot on research. I'd always, make sure it's correct. And I've only, funny enough, been writing poetry since I was 12, and that was another reason I went to this island, and I wrote so many poems. So many poems.
Interesting.
And yet, I've only got 2 poetry books. I prefer performing my poetry
Yes.
rather than having it in a book on someone's shelf But people keep asking me to write more poetry books, so I will get round to it.
Yes.
I will get round to it.
And both the excerpt you read us and the poem, you know, from the fiction and the poem, they were beautifully descriptive. It's like you could imagine you were there.
Yes.
Very, very real. That's why I was wondering how you took that from the notes and put it into something.
Well,
you know.
my serious poetry
Yeah.
is very descriptive,
Yes.
but I like writing descriptive poetry and with, you know, where you can use your imagination and also I got some lovely reviews for this book, and nearly everyone said I felt as if I was on the island with you. And lots of people say I've got a very friendly way of writing, and they feel as if they're with me
They're with
when
you,
they're
yes.
reading my book, which is a lovely thing to say, isn't it?
I felt that as I was, you know, I haven't been there, and yet you described it, and you could kind of picture it.
Well, also, you know, there's so much, like the restaurants, the local food, the characters that I met. Some of the hippies were fantastic, and the locals were brilliant. I had to learn Spanish.
Yes.
I made a mistake. I went to the Spanish school, and they started teaching me posh Spanish, I suppose, and the locals couldn't understand a word I was saying, because they don't speak posh Spanish,
No.
they speak La Gomeran Spanish. So I thought, not going back to that language school, I'm going to talk to the old men in the squares and the ladies in the shops and people in the valleys. So that's how I learnt the language.
And that mirrors the way you write, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
With people.
Oh,
and
I love.
and the kind
I'm
of
very
understanding.
observant.
Yes,
Well, I think
absolutely.
you have to be when you're a writer anyway, and especially when I'm writing comic and humorous stuff.
Yes.
I'm an observer of people. You have to be very careful these days with the PC. Although I write, especially if I'm out with friends and something funny happens, they point to me and say, "Oh, this is going to be a monologue or a poem." And I do write a lot of true stories, but most of them are fiction. But when they're true, I tell people they're true because I just observe all the
Yes.
time, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's
That's clear. Right?
Yeah.
It comes across in your work.
but I can't stay serious for long.
No. I've only heard you. That was lovely. I've only heard you do funny poems, really.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They were very funny.
Well, when I'm doing open mics and performing, like I did a gig yesterday, I only did 30 minutes yesterday,
Yeah.
but I like to do a mixture of humorous poetry,
Yes.
monologues, and I also write parodies.
Yes.
I love taking a well-known song that people know
Yes.
and changing the words and a play on words
Yes,
and making it into a
yes.
comic song. I like
Yes.
doing that. So.
So you'd say your influences are real life, really?
Yes,
That's
yes,
what you do. You
definitely.
observe and you're capturing real life. Any particular themes that you have, or is it just as you see
Anything
something?
and everything.
Right, anything and everything. Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I used to write a lot of intuitive poetry many years ago, and I've got a few bits in that book. But no, I think after nearly dying 8 years ago,
Yes.
they saved my life on the Maltese Islands because I went from the Canaries to Malta and then from Malta to Gozo, which was my favourite island. Beautiful island, very diverse, lots of writers and artists and poets and spiritual people, and the locals were wonderful. Yes, I thought I had a heart attack in England 6 months before I went back to Gozo because I lived there twice.
Yes.
But I'm afraid they sent me away with Gaviscon. So I nearly died 6 months later on the Maltese Islands.
Yeah.
Anyway, they saved my life and they said I was lucky to be alive. So I started writing a lot more humorous stuff.
Yes.
But I
Did that
thought,
change you?
well, you know, and then 2 years later I stopped working for myself because my heart got worse again. I'm on an even keel at the moment. And the doctors out there said, "You're so positive." I said, "Well, I'm not going to give up."
No.
I said, you know, I've got a new lease of life now, so I'm going to do all the things I've always wanted to do, and I'm only going to do the things that I love doing.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I do love humour.
Yes.
I do like to see the funny stuff. No, I mean, as it says in this book, Humour is good for your health. If you want to buy it on Amazon, don't buy this one because I've revised it and you'll have to wait a couple of weeks for the new copy to be on there.
Oh.
But I did say in my... I won't read the whole introduction, but I did say I'm not denigrating anyone's problems, as life can be cruel, and of course there are those with severe mental and physical conditions to deal with. However, I do have a friend with severe personality disorder, and on her good days, her sense of humour shines through.
Oh.
And
Yes.
I think we need to laugh at ourselves,
Right, yes.
not take life too seriously,
Yes.
if we can, you know. And my family all think I'm mad, so it doesn't bother me at all. One of my granddaughters said to me a couple of years ago, "Nana, you're mad." I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" She said, "Well," she said, "you're always out." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do? Stay home doing my knitting and watch Coronation Street?" She said, "Oh, no, Nana, that's not you." I said, "Well, stop complaining then." Right, shall I do something humorous?
Oh,
Yes?
absolutely.
My friend Paul, who puts on lots of live music, especially around the Orpington area. You have to excuse me. I was put on a new heart tablet about 3 months ago and it makes me very dry.
Oh.
He thinks there's a lot of me in this poem, but it's actually fiction. Mother is at it again. My mother is 89 years young. Unconventional, there's no doubt. Compass mentis, fit as a fiddle, but every rule she'll try and flout. When she reached the age of 80, while feeling hale and hearty, she stood as a candidate for Monster Raving Loony Party. At 83, she camped in a tree to save her meditation shack from being bulldozed in the woods. Council officials were taken aback. After a time, the workmen, worn out, felt like they'd been in a scrummage. When Mother emerged from the woods, she looked like Wurzel Gummidge. Now she wants to save the planet, and at nearly 90 years old, she's joined Extinction Rebellion. I admire her, if the truth be told. She left in a long flowing skirt, wearing Dr. Martin boots, an Extinction Rebellion t-shirt, and smoking a large cheroot. With a small tent under her arm, ukulele over her shoulder, a rolled up yoga mat on her back, she jumped into a battered Skoda. I worry about what my wild mother camping on Westminster Bridge. Hope she doesn't use her right hook on a policeman, God forbid. Later that day, watching the news, I see protesters glued to a wall. One woman looks like a geriatric in Dr. Martin boots and all. Can't see if it's my mother, 'cause she has a Greta Thunberg mask on. If it's her, she'll end up in a cell. Oh, what a blooming carry-on. I know the worst is yet to come, 'cause Mother has told me already about her 90th birthday treat. The thought of it makes me feel heady. Don't know if I can take much more. Feel I'm living in a farce. With her new 50-year-old toy boy, she wants to trek up the Khyber Pass. Never mind, I've got the sniffles. I've got so many allergies, don't worry. There it is. Thank you. Sorry.
Geraldine, what's your writing process for something like that?
It can vary, but quite often I write in the early hours of the morning. In fact, anything you do is much better in the early hours of the morning. Meditation, writing, contemplating, I just love waking up early. The trouble is it does make me a bit tired during the day. Sometimes I have a rest, it's all according if I'm out and about. So sometimes I'll get an idea in the middle of the night. I always have a pad next to my bed. So I write that idea down and hopefully I go back to sleep. But if I can't get back to sleep because this idea's going round and round in my head, I have to get on my laptop and start. Now sometimes a poem it amazes me after just a couple of hours. It's how I want it to be. But like all you poets know, sometimes you have to leave a poem alone, go back to it a few days later. I've even been going back to poems that I wrote a few years ago and making them better.
Yes.
So I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but then I think writers have to be. But I do love writing in the morning. Trouble is, I love swimming as well.
Yes.
I love
you've been
early
doing some
swimming, so-
yeah.
If I'm not swimming, I'm writing in the morning, and then I do the rest of the stuff later in the day.
So you're busy. How much stuff have you written? Not just the publications, do you think?
Oh my goodness, hundreds and hundreds of poems.
Yeah.
I've had lots and lots of them broadcast on BBC Radio Kent and other stations. I'm also sometimes on East London Radio,
Yes.
talking stories. That beautiful story earlier, forgotten her name, the lady from Scotland.
Sheila.
Sheila, I'm sure they'd love you on Talking Stories. And it's a global, I mean, they have storytellers and poets from all over the planet. It's just amazing. It's so well known now all over the planet. So if you want to get on there, Talking Stories is great. So yeah, I do a lot of recording. And I'm not bad at recording, actually. I've got none of this flash stuff, you know. I just do it cheaply, but it seems to come out okay. The BBC wouldn't accept it if it wasn't any good anyway.
No.
Oh, and about 3 years ago, there was a brand new, because I like music festivals, there was a brand new music festival in Orpington, quite near to me, called the Priory Festival. And the BBC, for the first time, had their own stage. And they asked me to perform on the stage, so I was quite
that's
chuffed about that.
lovely, yeah.
I also belong to Broadstairs Folk Week Poets, so once a year we go down to the Folk Week Music Festival, and every morning we perform down there, and then I belong to a couple of other poetry groups as well. I do write stories, but not so much.
Mainly poetry.
It's mainly monologues and poetry, because I find with I love free verse, but I also love rhythm. I love rhythm, and I love rhyming poetry, because I think if it's humorous, it helps it along.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Do you want me to read another one?
Of course.
Man of many parts. Just another swig of gin. I wish, with my cocktail tablets. No way. I met Grayson Harley last Easter in the shopping mall. He looked rather dapper, was handsome, smart and tall. Standing at the checkout, he seemed to flash the cash, and what he was purchasing was anything but trash. He sounded rather sexy with his American drawl, but I'm a bit plain and not really the belle of the ball. I decided to take action though before he left the shop. I dropped my purse on the floor. He was there like a shot. He asked me to join him for lunch in a posh hotel, and almost immediately I fell under his spell. He said he was in England to find himself a wife, to whisk her away to the USA to start a new life. I'm not the prettiest and he is older than me, but I thought, what the heck, in life there's no guarantee. He didn't waste much time, we were hitched the very next day. Soon we were flying to his house in San Francisco Bay. We had a romantic meal on the terrace in candlelight. The moon was shining on the sea. It was a lovely night when I thought I saw something moving on Grayson's head. Could have been my pebble glasses or the G&T instead. I retired with eagerness. He was quite a catch. I sat up in bed waiting, suitably creamed and waxed, when Grayson started dismantling himself. And I was right. I had seen something move on his head, and it wasn't the light. He took off a wig, laid it on the side as bold as brass. I was rather shocked to see his head as smooth as glass. This showed a hearing aid, which gave out a high-pitched noise. It gave me a headache, and I started to lose my poise. Next he took his teeth out and gave me a gummy smile. My get up and go had gone. I felt like running a mile. The worst was yet to come, because when he took off his suit, Grayson had a false leg strapped to the end of his boot. He unstrapped it in silence and leant it against the wall. Now I was wondering if there'd be another pitfall. I looked at his wig, hearing aid, leg and teeth in a glass and thought our romantic wedding night was indeed a farce. He was a man of many parts. This had sent me reeling. So the next day I booked a flight and went straight back to Ealing. A year has passed and now I am a wealthy divorcee. I got half of everything. Cheers, Grayson. Say la vie.
I'm just fascinated what would make you think of that.
I've got so many different ideas, and I've just started a new one with another great idea. All right, I'm only 72, going on 40, but this new monologue I'm writing, it's about an 85-year-old, and how it starts is she's admiring someone's new sports car. She's standing at the edge of the road, and then all of a sudden this young man hoists her across the road, thinking she needs help, shouts in her ear, thinking she's a bit dumb and deaf, and it's all about the way people treat
Deceive you, yeah.
elderly people.
Yes,
Because it doesn't matter whether you're 85 or 15, you can be young when you're old and old when you're young, can't you? It's nothing to do with age.
No.
My ideas just come from life. Might be an advert I've heard on the radio. It might be something I might even overhear a conversation on the train and I think, oh, that's a good idea. But it's, I say, sometimes I can be quite risque with my parodies, but not too bad, you know? Just a little bit naughty. Would you like me to read something else?
Absolutely.
I do like the Cockney accent. I was born in South East London. I'm not a Cockney. I was actually brought up to speak properly, but I like the Cockney accent. This is called Charlie Was a Nightmare. Charlie always had a roll-up hanging out of his mouth. Sometimes he was so tight with the baccy, his fag would go up in flames and singe his moustache. Well, I weren't going to give him a good night kiss after that, because his tash smelt like an old ashtray. Talking of ashtrays, I had to follow him round the house with one. The ash got so long hanging on the end of his fag, it only would have ended up on me nice clean floor. He was a nightmare, was Charlie, but I miss him. Oh, he loved his prunes all right, but the cheeky blighter used to say me face looked like a bowl of prunes with the many lines on it. I told him, these lines are a map of me life, and life with Charlie ain't been a bed of roses, I can tell you. Yeah, he loved his prunes and custard. I made sure I didn't give them to him every day, though, for obvious reasons. He was a nightmare, was Charlie, but I miss him. I used to do all the ironing except his trousers, you know. He said I didn't do them good enough. He used to be in the army, you see, so he got used to his trousers having a razor-sharp crease in them. It was so sharp you could cut your flaming hands. He insisted on polishing his own shoes too. You had to see your face in them, he used to say. I didn't mind, because it was one less job for me. He did make me laugh, though, because he ended up with no hair, so he used to polish his bald head and all. He was a nightmare, was Charlie, but I miss him. It was a year ago today the electrics were playing up, but he was too flaming tight to get an electrician in to sort it out. I warned him, but he wouldn't listen. He always thought he knew best, so I left him to it and went to make the steak and kidney pud. His favourite. Was his favourite. I should have called the sparky myself, but it's too late now. Well, he got his wish. He always said he wanted to go out with a bang. Yeah, he was a nightmare, was Charlie. But I do miss him.
Oh. So is that a story of someone you know? Or?
No, I don't know where I got the idea from, to be honest.
That's what intrigues me, like where does an idea like that come from?
I can't remember. I really can't remember. I mean, some of my poems I've been likened to Pam Ayres, what I think is a great honour to say that. So I'm quite chuffed when people say that. No, I just get an idea and then I think, well, how can I make that humorous? You know, seeing the funny side of a situation.
Yes, yeah.
Like I say, it might be an advert I hear, something I see on the television, just overhearing a conversation, or just something that is in my head at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Can you tell us about some of your publications? Because you've had quite a lot, haven't you?
Well, 6. The first, when I lived on 3 different islands. I went from Canaries to Malta. I was on Malta for 15 months. I used to run retreats out there and you have students coming out and also writing classes and things. And then my landlord said, did you know there's a poetry group on Gozo? Gozo is a sister island to Malta, very, very small island. And I used to gaze at Gozo from my kitchen in my new apartment on Malta. And I had the best view on the island. It was amazing, all across the channel, the beaches and this little island Gozo. Anyway, cut a long story short, the first time I was there for 5.5 years, came back to the UK, lived in Broadstairs, I didn't want to live in London. Then I went back for another 2.5 years. But when I came back to England, I was looking at the map. I said to my friend, I can't live near the children, I can't live near London. I want to live on the southeast coast so it's not too far away. So I looked at the map and I just put a pin in it. I said, oh, this is interesting because Charles Dickens did a lot of, and I ended up in Broadstairs where Charles Dickens used to, in Bleak House in Broadstairs, if you can see the picture there, they've still got his study there at the front of the house with his writing desk in it. And Princess Victoria, her bed's in that house as well because she stayed in the hotel down there. That's why it's got the royal name on it. And so the first book I wrote was on the Dickens trail.
Right.
Because Dickens wasn't always a very nice character, as most of us know, and his books could be a bit heavy at times, but he was a force for nature, and he was quite well known all along the south coast. He used to go and walk for miles and miles and miles and miles. He loved swimming as well, and when he wasn't swimming and playing with the children, he was writing. So it was an interesting book to write. And then I wrote on the writer's trail, because all along the south coast, because I love being in the sea, many writers have lived and written their books. And it starts with Coleridge and ends up in Broadstairs with Oliver Postgate. I don't know if any of you remember Oliver Postgate.
Yeah.
He was fabulous. He was on the BBC when we were young. Lots of the children's stories were written by him and narrated by him. And his partner became one of my best friends. She also wrote some books with him. Then of course, When the Spirit Moves You was the first one.
Yes.
Now, when the pandemic started, some people said, oh, it's not going to go on for long. I said, I think it is. I said, don't waste this time because you're not going to get it back. I wasn't allowed outside the house because of my heart conditions. Apart from not seeing my family, I used to wave to them through the window and blow kisses and get my Mother's Day things brought in and put in the hall and all that.
Yes.
But I really enjoyed it. I was sorry to say that because I actually finished my novel, which I started years ago, and I was determined I wasn't going to waste this time sitting at home. Well, I wouldn't sit at home and watch television anyway. So I wrote A Collision of Two Worlds. I finished it. So that was a milestone. I also, my first poem I ever wrote when I was 12 was a limerick. I had a fantastic English teacher. And during the pandemic, I mean, writing limericks is fun. It's fun. And so I started writing limericks during the pandemic and the lockdowns. So I put a little book together, Limericks for Big Kids, and there's about 62 limericks in there. And then, because people loved my humorous stuff, that's when I thought, right, humour is good for your health. Because it is.
Yes,
It is good for your health. I mean, like I said earlier, people have got lots of problems, especially these days. But I invariably find, even if someone's got a hard life, if I'm performing especially my comic songs, it's lovely to see them smile, chuckle, and sometimes laugh out loud, because it's worth all the thousands of hours that you've been writing, you know?
Yes.
And for 3 years, I've had a lot of stuff broadcast on the radio. Unfortunately, the BBC has had to make cuts to this particular programme, so I'm not getting so much on the radio these days. But it doesn't bother me because I'm doing more performing now.
Yes.
So, would you like me to?
I would.
Have you got time?
I'd just like to ask you about what you have planned, sort of, for the future. What's
Well,
in the pipeline?
Actually, I started to talk about writing.
Yes.
Because my 17-year-old granddaughter last year, she said, Nanny, you're never home. I said, well, is that a problem? And my daughter says I've got a better social life than she has. Because also, I love MCing.
Yes, you
I-
said you do a bit of
In Orpington, we've got a fantastic private members club. We have live music on so much. We have even some bands from America. We have lots of live music. We have some spoken word and poetry. But I love doing the MCing because I've got the gift of the gab.
Right.
And sometimes, I'm not being funny, Ros, but some of the musicians faff around on the microphones, getting it all, and I'm thinking, so I'm trying to keep the audience happy by telling a few jokes or just, telling them what's going on. But I have got a new book that I started last year, and for some reason I can't seem to get on with it. But it's called Memories of a London Girl. And it's the 50s and 60s in southeast London. There'll obviously be a lot of humour in it. And I will get on with it, it's just that I'm very busy doing other things. I don't get a lot of time to do my artwork at the moment. But isn't it nice to be busy?
Isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know when I found time to go to work. How did I fit it in? I just don't know.
Where are you from in South East London?
Catford.
Oh, Catford, right.
Catford. Yeah, I was born in Catford. Some of my siblings were born in Lewisham Hospital, but I was born at home.
Oh.
My mum was very annoyed though because I'm sure I lost a twin, that's what my dad said. There was a twin, and she had to stay in hospital over Easter, which she wasn't very happy about that. So in the book, my father spent time in India. My great-grandparents, my great-granddad was a surgeon in India. He married an Indian lady. My grandmother's half Indian, Asian Indian. So there's, on that side, it's fascinating. So I do start off with some of my family tree. And my mother, her dad was from Scotland, and they came down to London to find work, as a lot of people did. But then the rest of it is all about my memories, and there's going to be humour in it, obviously, and poetry as well. I like story poems.
Yes.
So some of the stories of things that happened in my childhood, they come out well in a rhyming poem. Not a humorous one, a story poem narrating that event.
Yes,
You know?
so depending on what you're going to depict, you either choose a poem or...
Well, most of it's going to be prose
Yes.
and pictures, but a few poems.
There's these bits
as
in
well.
there, yeah. So a nice mixture.
Yeah, so I must get on with it. Maybe in the winter when it's, not such good weather.
Yes.
The trouble is, I have to pace myself.
Of course.
This week's been manic. The weekend I'm going to slow down a little bit. You're supposed to pace yourself when you've got heart conditions. But as the doctor said to me when he saved my life, he said, you're so positive. I said, well, they're not ready for me up there yet. They wouldn't know what to do with me, would they?
Not at all.
No. got a few years left, and I hope I'm going to be compos mentis and mobile.
Yeah,
That's the
absolutely.
main thing. So that I can guide my grandchildren. Well, if they listen, they don't all listen these days.
Geraldine, we've got loads of people on Zoom been
Yep.
listening in, and at some point, probably in a minute, I'd like to open the floor really for people to ask you questions, if that's all right. Is that okay? Do you want to do one final poem before we then hand over to
Short one or long
the
one?
floor? The choice is yours.
Actually, I think I'll do. This is one of my favourites. As I say, I'm a Broadstairs folk week poet, and Broadstairs is on the south coast. It's a fabulous place, and it's full of artists and musicians and lots of live music everywhere, and so many poetry groups and spoken word. It's a fabulous place. I do miss it, but I came back to be near my kids because they worry about me with my heart conditions. And I did my own thing. I was nomadic for about 20 years, so it's time for me to focus more on the family. So I was waiting to go into Poets' Breakfast, and I was sitting in the park, and this poem was perfect after one write. I wrote it, and it just flowed. And I got the idea from the Big Issue.
Yes.
Those of you in England know that Big Issue is sold by homeless people. But there was an article in it. A university study were trying to tell us how to stop the seagulls eating our food. And I thought, oh yeah, you haven't lived on the coast, have you? So I wrote this poem from the seagull's point of view. Some scientists are claiming that you can stare us out. I have news for you, mate. Us seagulls have more clout. Staring down gulls is the secret to protecting your chips, academics are saying. I think they need to get a grip. I'll dive bomb like a Stuka. I'll have your pie and chips before one little morsel has passed between your lips. I am Sid the Seagull. I rule this seaside town. My minions are trained pilots, so do not stare and frown. Their beady eyes are on you. They know when to loop the loop. Glide through the air with ease, then take the final swoop. I am Sid the Seagull. I've ruled here for some time, so don't bother staring at me, because what's yours is mine. I visit you at Poets' Breakfast to let you know who's boss. You bards look up and curse me, but I couldn't give a toss. They did a few experiments with a bag of chips as bait. It might work in Skegness, but not in Broadstairs, mate. I am Sid the Seagull. I've told you, I'm the boss. This university study is just a load of tosh. Remember, what's yours is mine, so don't make a flaming fuss. My minions are trained pilots, and the town belongs to us.
Oh, yes.
You can ask me where I got the idea from. Watching seagulls swooping down,
Exactly.
they look like planes, don't they?
Yes,
you know?
they do. Yes, very determined if they want your chips. It's been wonderful talking with you, Geraldine, and hearing lots of your ideas and where it's come from and what inspires you, what influences you, and what your writing process is. And I'm sure that out there are loads of people wanting to ask questions, so do indicate and we can come to you.
No? It's gone quiet.
It's gone quiet, nobody's got a question.
Does that mean I've covered everything?
I think it might have.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
Yeah. No, nobody wants to ask anything. Any questions from us?
I wondered if you talked about some of the more serious things that you like to write about. Would do you like saying something?
I like
that?
writing descriptive poetry,
Yeah.
especially when I was living abroad and travelling around. And used to love travelling on my own. It used to worry the kids. Oh God, Mum, you can't do that. I said, watch me. They're giving up telling me what to do now, you know. So when you can travel around on your own,
Yes.
you can be more observant and write down the notes. And you know, when you're with someone else and you're relying on what they want to do. I had 4 students, my spiritual students came out, and they thought the valley was amazing. And I got them all apartments. One of them stayed with me. And it was hilarious because one was a vegan, one was a pescatarian, 2 carnivores, and it's a meat-eating island. So trying to get them all sorted at restaurants, it was quite funny. But so yeah, there was a lot of descriptive poetry when I travelled. But I like writing whatever comes to mind. And many years ago, when like everybody's had lots of ups and downs in their lives, I seem to attract the wrong men. I don't anymore. I just prefer living on my own now. I put the key in the door. I know when I get in my flat, I can do exactly what I want to do. Haven't got the football blaring out on the television. Yeah. So, what was your question again?
No, just
Yeah. Did I answer it?
Yes,
I did.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, when I got to the top of the island, I went with 2 friends. And we walked through the rainforest. You can imagine the silence,
Gosh, beautiful.
but listening to the streams running and nearly falling over as well, because I tripped over a big tree root which was covered with leaves and ended up flat on my back, and my bottle of water landed on my head. So, but apart from that, and when you come out of this rainforest, I've never seen such a view in my life. So I had to write about a lot of descriptive poetry when I was on the island, and about things that happened as well, you know, with the hippies and visitors, and because I love talking to people. I used to drive my kids mad. I say, Mum, do you have to talk to everyone? I say, yeah. Why not? I mean, even now, you know, I talk to everybody. The thing is, you have to be careful now. I adore children. And you're not supposed to talk to children anymore. What a sad world we live in.
We live in, yeah.
You know, some of the school kids are told they mustn't talk to anybody.
yeah.
And that's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I love watching children as well.
Yeah.
Oh, and I wrote my grandchildren lots of poems. I wrote a series of books about Purple Granny, and they used to think that was me because I always used to dress in purple, and I used to ride a motorbike at one time, and Purple Granny rode a motorbike, but it wasn't really me. But they were supposed to be published, but that's a long story, but I had a lot of trouble with the publishers, so so I do like writing children's poetry as well.
As well, yeah.
Children's stories.
Can I ask something?
Oh, we've got a question.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes. Susie, carry on.
Yes. Can you hear me? Because I'm having problems with
Yes.
the volume,
can
and then
hear
I'm
you.
doing this through the phone and seeing you. I just wondered if I could ask, you are naturally very, very, very talented. And all your writing is obviously is so diverse. And I just wondered, you just sitting listening to you, and because I love comedies, I'm thinking, have you ever thought about writing a comedy sitcom and acting in it as well?
do you know, many years ago, that was what I wanted to do, write a sitcom.
Oh, really?
And I did inquire about it, because even now the BBC encourages you.
Yes.
But it's not that simple, because
No, I know.
they have to save a lot of money when they're writing sitcoms. So you have to write a sitcom that's kind of always in the same room. You know, you can't have lots of different places. Anyway, no, that's one thing I never got round to, but I don't regret it, because I just went on to other things.
Yes.
So maybe that wasn't meant to be. You never know, though. I mean, I'm only 72. I might
Oh yeah, well,
do it.
are you? Oh my goodness. I
Yes,
wish I would
well-
look half as good as you when I get to your age.
Well, do you know the secret is enjoying life?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, but
It's
thank you so much. you're just natural. You're just naturally like Roz. You're just sort of so naturally talented. You come across so good, and you make people feel so good about themselves and happy.
lovely.
Happy.
Well, that's
That is the thing.
that's what I intend to do. I'm one of life's motivators as well.
Yeah.
And I used to do public speaking and inspirational speaking, which used to uplift people. So that's part of who I am. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. I can't see everyone. Let me have a look. Are there any more questions? I don't think there are they? I mean, I don't know about everyone else. I really feel like we have heard like the essence of who you are, and you've brought your wonderful personality to all of us here, and it's a sort of it's a lovely feel-good factor having you.
Thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed myself.
I knew this would be absolutely a lovely platform for you, and I knew that we'd all enjoy it. It has been an absolutely wonderful evening, actually, and I want to say a big thank you to Geraldine for coming. A big thank you to Louisa and Jill from the GFMA team. And do want to say, we talked a lot about sort of lockdown and what happened to people in lockdown, and what GFMA did in lockdown was get together the most amazing set of workshops that all went online, including this.
We did loads of stuff
And
online.
Travel week.
Yes,
Travel every week.
yes.
Brilliant.
2 years. Plus 3 events.
Well,
Yeah,
there was no
so
other outlet,
There
was
was
there?
no other outlet, and they still continue, and we have a lot of them. So check them out on the GFMA website, because it really has been absolutely wonderful. And the I just want to mention the singing group, really, which is absolutely fabulous. It's both live and it's also on Zoom, so you can check that out on the site. And we just have fun. We sing and we have fun.
Good,
Talk
that's what it's
about
all about.
well-being. It really is the lifter for well-being.
I didn't know I could sing till 18 months ago.
Well, you must come and join us.
I started writing parodies for a bit of
Yes.
fun.
Yes.
And when one of my musician friends said, Jill, you can sing. I said, oh, it's just a bit of fun. He said, no, but you can sing. I said, oh.
Yeah, but singing is great, isn't it? And it
Oh,
lifts everything.
yes,
So do
it is,
join
it's
us
great.
if you'd like to sing.
And you've got a beautiful voice.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I want to say a big thank you to you, the audience, because if there's no one to watch these things, you're a very big part of the evening. Very good. And a thank you to everybody who's performed. Constanza Maria, who had to leave, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful. Sheila, Andrew L. Boyd and Suzanne West. It's been a terrific evening, I feel. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I feel like I have a really wonderful... it's a wonderful job here, because I get to present this and I get to speak to people. I hope I ask the right things that you want to know about, but it's very lovely. It feels like quite a privilege for me to be kind of drilling down to what makes people kind of tick as writers, because it's all different. We all write and we all do things, and it's all incredibly different what we do and the way we do it. And this opportunity to find out about how different people do that, it all adds to our sort of knowledge and experience. And for me, I absolutely love it. A big thank you again to Geraldine. It's been a great pleasure having you here. I knew you would be just right. Thank you so much.